Hi, everybody. Welcome to Eastern Village Cohousing in Silver Spring, Maryland. My name is Drew Joseph. I've been living in our community of about 50 units since 2012. And I'd just like to welcome you all to our open house and virtual tour today. It's nice to see all the faces populate the screen. And the whole thing is being recorded for people who may have been interested but not able to attend today. So please keep that in mind in your choices about how to participate. You know, another thing people might helpfully put into the chat, I think, is a kind of orientation to like what level or stage your interest in co-housing is, or in our Eastern Village Cohousing in particular. And so we've come up with 3 keywords. The first one is you're beginning or researching. So basically you're curious to find out, what is this co-housing business? The second term or class we might call building. You've convened a group of people and you're in the process of putting together a specific community, maybe with a specific site already in mind. And then the third group is you have a co-housing community built and you're wanting to exchange notes or find out how we do things, what have you. So if people wouldn't mind also typing into the chat, beginning research, building, or built, that would be helpful for our presenters too, just to have a sense of who they're speaking to. The co-housing movement is very much in process in this country and around the world. And at Eastern Village Cohousing, again, we're in Silver Spring, Maryland. We don't pretend to know the way to do it. We're gonna present to you today how we're doing it and how we conceive of sort of the ground rules and the structures and the protocols of our community. And to do that, we have a number of volunteers from our community who are gonna kind of appear in a series of presentations telling you about different aspects.
Okay.
Take it away, Susan.
Thank you. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Drew, Daisy, and thank you all for joining us. Welcome. I am Susan. I live here at Eastern Village Cohousing. I've been here since 2004, and I'm also a mother. I have 2 sons who've grown up here in cohousing and a dog. So this is a home for my family that I'm sharing with you all today. I'm going to give an overview introduction of our plan for today, and I hope that you'll find the plan is what you planned to tune in for. We want to give an overview of Eastern Village Cohousing and cohousing in general to try and give you a sense of life here at EVC. So we've arranged for a series of different residents and members of the cohousing community here to speak to different aspects of Eastern Village Cohousing. So we're looking at community connections, how we've been thriving during COVID, our approach to decision making, our finances, our building's physical structure, the green features here, social life at Eastern Village, how we have fun, how we work, how we support each other. And we do have a time near the end where we plan to pause for questions and answers. And Jay, if you would please place in the chat now for people who've joined the email for EVC tours at easternvillage.org. This is where anyone can sign up for our mailing list, also our website, and hope to encourage you all to be in touch with us moving forward. This meeting is being recorded, and we do plan to post it online so that you can rewatch, and also for others who are interested in Eastern Village Cohousing in the near future would be able to watch it as well. So now we're going to turn to a 4-minute introductory video made by one of our Eastern Village community members.
An old cement building on the edge of downtown Silver Spring had good bones. And a group of people were all asking themselves the same question. How will we create co-housing? The building's redesign included geothermal heat and AC, and exterior roof, courtyard, and balcony structures that hold energy-saving live plants. It's invaluable being green. Our garden courtyard opens to the main entrance, the main hall, and many shared spaces. Many different lives and homes in one village. Plenty of gatherings, meetings, chores, privacy, and neighborly support. With all our very different perspectives and cultures, we find central community values that we can align with and strive for. Walk south to massive Rock Creek Park. Walk north to downtown Silver Spring Metro. We're surrounded by small and large shops, parks, and friendly neighborhoods. Who lives here? Introverts, extroverts, and everyone in between. Teens, kids, pets, family shapes, couples, singles, different religions, non-religions, cultures, races, abilities, and orientations. And everyone knows how to shovel snow or plan a cleanup. So the people moved in, developed EVC together, and over time, and with hard work and many meetings, have honed and are still honing structures for organizing, decision-making, and sharing in village life. Generally, co-housing, as a self-organized community with separate homes and shared common spaces, has been around throughout human history and comes in many shapes and sizes. One definition of co-housing: communities of private homes clustered around a community building that we call a common house. As in traditional housing, we all have our own units with private kitchens and baths. Co-housing is an intentional community that is grassroots initiated by its residents, going beyond fair housing laws and embracing non-discriminatory practices. Co-housing is often market rate. Interest in co-housing is growing. Whether you're interested in joining EVC by buying a home here, researching co-housing, building your own community, or you're a co-houser learning from others, enjoy. Watch TED Talks, visit tours and open houses, visit local, national, and regional co-housing websites, and visit ours at www.easternvillage.org. Together, we can do this. Thanks for watching. Hope your journey into co-housing is a valuable one.
Welcome, everyone, and it is such a large group. We're not going to say hello to each person individually, but really happy that you all are here with us. And now we're going to move on up. Someone else is from Austin, Texas. Welcome. Okay. So now we'll move on with turning back to Daisy on the historical trending and diversity context of co-housing. Take it away, Daisy.
Hi, guys, again. So again, my name is Daisy. Now, I've been a member here at EVC for just 1.5 years with my husband. By day, I'm a professional coach and currently co-lead outreach group here and with Jay and Stephen and others. I've done work with regional and national co-housing boards, and I sing the blues. So for now, I'm going to try to encapsulate in a moment putting co-housing into historical diversity and trending context. I'm going to try that here, and your results and your views may vary. So this is what we'll do. As I mentioned, or as was mentioned in the EVC intro video, in general, co-housing as a self-organized community with separate homes and shared common spaces has been around throughout human history and comes in many shapes and sizes. Some have referred to their self-organized communities or common houses as block houses, church basements, longhouses, villages, pueblos, etc. In fact, just recently on an international co-housing call, a First Nations group described using their traditional longhouse design as their common house. Such large and small communities have also been self-organized as safe havens for anyone facing disenfranchisement, including LGBTQIA+, many cultures, and neurodiverse folks. And isn't safe haven what we all naturally want in home? So at last year's National Community for All virtual conference, many co-housers spoke about the benefits that inclusive and diverse housing brings, co-housing brings. Karen Gibnig of CohoUS captured many co-housers' poignant inquiries, actions, and trends. And she mentioned that were mentioned in that virtual conference in a short video. So I'll end here with that short video. It's called Community for All Moments, with a big thank you to Karen and to all the conference presenters for creating such value.
So living with difference means cultivating an ability to live in this in-between, to allow two or more seemingly opposing things to be true without needing one to be more true than the other. Instead of living in either or, we have the capacity to hold the both and.
My husband and I started this community with the idea that we didn't want home to be a real estate transaction. Really, we wanted to emphasize home as belonging, as a place of support, a place to feel secure, a place for our well-being, a place to have community.
There have been several communities that have come up in my area, and I had some realization that there were at different points in each community, I had to opt out because it just didn't feel like a right fit.
There's a reality that people of color see and have seen for generations, and then there's the reality that white people just do not want to see and don't see.
And that's the key thing about privilege, is that it's not something that you did, and it's not something that you can really erase. It's just there based on identities and the culture that we grew up in.
Class privilege comes into play in a very big way for almost every community. We are only here because I had a friend with $300,000 to spare.
A group of us are trying to lend some money to the community so the community can buy one or two of the homes and then rent them out on a long-term secure basis to have long-term sustainable renting.
And we're kind of trained to believe that we can't have compassion for others as we are suffering ourselves, but that's not actually true. Humans are amazing. We have the ability to be compassionate about others.
By POC folks, and knowing that you can be in dialogue, model, learn from the ways in which they have developed community, even when it looks different than the co-housing model, and be very thoughtful about that engagement and about those lessons and about where you can, because those help you build a community which may be more conducive and better space, right, for people of color to join or to create communities alongside your community that are more reflective of that wider beloved community.
And when it comes to community, I don't want to be seen as the different one. I want to be seen as part of the community.
When you go home, that should be like your haven, your safe place. And to have to do a lot of that emotional labor with folks who don't understand you is a lot to take on.
And what she didn't realize was that simply having to make that offer added another level of shame.
And we've asked them to specifically help us with anti-racism.
So
What is an inclusive community? It's a community that welcomes and values all of its members and does not restrict membership based on a particular culture, ability, socioeconomic status, or race.
We found that there is such a desire for being a part of a stable friendship building, community gathering group.
I am drawn to having a community of people who have committed to be there with each other.
Cohousing has the ability to change the face of the future of residential options for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
It's not just that I believe this way of living to be possible. I know it's possible.
Hello, everyone. I think it's my turn now. Thank you for that video, Daisy. My name is Stephen Feinberg-Sylvan, and I am a co-founder of Eastern Village, excuse me. I'm also a member of this community, have been a member of this community for 20 years. I'm an environmental professional. I live here at EVC with my wife and my 2 daughters who have grown up here at EVC. I'll spend a few minutes explaining what is cohousing and what makes it unique, and then I'll provide a very high-level overview of Eastern Village. So what is cohousing? You've heard a little bit about it already from speakers and from the video, but one way of thinking about it, for the vast majority of people who live in cohousing, cohousing is a very warm, welcoming, inclusive, supportive, interesting, eco-friendly, participatory, and productive place to live. Of course, as Daisy has said, many people outside of cohousing have created warm, welcoming, caring, close-knit communities. But these neighborhoods are not always easy to find in the United States. Sometimes these communities aren't fully inclusive. Cohousing is designed intentionally to be such a warm, welcoming, inclusive, and participatory community. So what makes cohousing unique? There are a number of things. I'm just going to touch on a few here. Every major element of the community is designed to build a strong community. So for example, the process for developing the building and forming the community is done so with the intention of strong community. The design of the building has a number of elements, which we'll get into, that foster community. The decision-making process fosters community. The management approach, the approach to just supporting each other in the community as humans in need of help. Many of these topics will be covered in greater detail later. I'm just going to touch on a few and with just a little more detail now. Participatory development and design process. Unlike most housing or condo developments, the future residents, when you're forming a cohousing community, play a major role in designing the building itself. What kind of units will we have? How many units? What will be the shape and sizes of them? What kind of common spaces will we have? These are some of the things that the community members themselves, not just the developer, not just the contractors, have a major voice in. These buildings are designed to ensure that people get the privacy they need, but encourage interaction, socializing, and collaboration. The homes are clustered around a common shared space. It's pedestrian friendly. So instead of having cars right when you walk into the community, there are automobiles right there with the noise and the pollution, all that. The cars are put on the periphery so people can have conversations, and there's a pedestrian friendly center of the community. There's usually always in cohousing, a great deal of common space, far more than you'd ever see in a typical condo building or housing development. And those spaces are designed to encourage and build community. There's resident management, where the residents themselves play a big role, the major role. A non-hierarchical, inclusive decision-making process, usually around a formal consensus process with a facilitator or dynamic governance, where every voice counts, every voice must be heard in the cohousing community. So this is different from many HOA boards. If any of you have been on have participated on an HOA board, or you've lived in a condo building or other housing development with HOA board, a small handful of people can dominate the entire board and make decisions for everyone and about almost everything. That's not co-housing. Others will get into more details about the decision-making process later. How many co-housing communities are there? According to a recent check, I just checked earlier today, the Cohousing USA website, about 170 existing co-housing communities, 100 of them are forming. To learn more about co-housing, there are so many amazing resources out there. You could find many excellent articles about co-housing in the New York Times and Washington Post. There are a number of great TED Talks, PBS NewsHour videos. I'll just share my personal opinion in terms of the seminal book on co-housing is one called Cohousing, A Contemporary Approach to Housing Ourselves, if you want to pick that up. There's also the Cohousing USA website and the Mid-Atlantic Cohousing website, which have just great information and resources. So now I'm going to turn to EVC specifically for a little bit. I'll start with our value statement. I think somebody's putting it up right now. If you were to walk through the front doors, our front doors of Eastern Village, one of the very first things you see would be our value statement. It's also prominent on our website. Many members of EVC spent many months developing this value statement. And let me just go through it really quickly with you. EVC is committed to inclusive decision-making through the consensus in the following principles. We cherish and support diverse ages, ethnicities, interests, abilities, relationships, and spiritual beliefs. We value ecological responsibility, sustainable design, and a balance of aesthetics and affordability. We foster interconnectedness, growth, care, communication, and respect among our members. We also engage responsibly with our neighborhood and the wider world. So the people that formed Eastern Village, we started meeting in about 2002, and we had the help of a developer named Don Tucker, and quite a number of members of the community played a huge role in its development. We are part of the downtown Silver Spring Arts and Entertainment District. We began moving in to Eastern Village in 2004. We are pretty much sandwiched between downtown Silver Spring and Rock Creek National Park. We are walkable to almost everything you might need. Cafes, grocery stores, libraries, theaters, Montgomery College, hiking trails, biking trails. It just goes on and on. We are 55 homes, which makes us one of the largest co-housing communities in North America. Our homes range in size from 634 square foot, one bedroom units to, I should say a 634 square foot, one bedroom unit to a 1,600 plus three bedroom unit. We have about 100 members of the community, every age you can think of, from babies to people in their 90s. We have different family shapes and sizes, couples, singles, different religions, non-religions, cultures, races, abilities, and orientations. I think you could say that all of us, I'm a little biased, it's a very kind group of people, fascinating people. I've met so many fascinating people, thoughtful people, community-oriented people. We strive to increase our racial, ethnic, and income diversity to match the neighborhood that we're in, which the Washington Post has a couple times said is one of the most diverse neighborhoods in the country. The kinds of people we are, just to name some of the kinds of roles we play. We are entrepreneurs, librarians, mental health workers, musicians, tech geeks, homemakers, teachers, retirees, athletes, chefs, government employees, community leaders, activists, authors, data scientists, choir directors, carpenters, executives, professors, poets, mathematicians, therapists, and many, many more. Many of us are environmental professionals. All of us, I think pretty much all of us consider ourselves to be environmentalists. So what makes EVC unique compared to a conventional condo building? Well, I'll just point out a few things. There'll be more on this later. So community building activities, there's just so many of them, hundreds and hundreds of community building activities. Most of them are spontaneous. Hey, let's just go to the roof and chat about such and such. And we go to the roof deck and have an interesting conversation over tea or beer or whatever. We have a very active listserv with just so many announcements of so many things going on, sharing of things and helping each other out, and invitations to any number of activities. We have an organizational structure and decision-making that encourages community building, as I mentioned. We have so many amazing eco features. You'll hear more about that later. We won many eco awards for the building. Community engagement is easy and encouraged. Relative to a condo building, we have a very, very high level of participation in managing the community and of the work of running it and maintaining it and improving the building and its grounds. So we also provide incredible support to each other, especially during times of personal and public emergencies, such as power outages, storms, or during the pandemic. The outpouring of support when somebody is sick or injured is just remarkable. The emotional support I found extraordinary, as many people I think do. As a local municipality says in their trainings, you are the help until the help arrives. Or there's a Ugandan saying, your neighbor is your first family. You run to them first in an emergency. So if you have any questions about anything I've shared or anything so far, please hold them to the Q&A segment at the end of the tour or put them in the chat, and someone will try to answer them in the chat or later during the Q&A segment. I think I'll now pass the baton to my neighbor and friend, Adina.
Hi, everybody. My name is Adina. I've been a member of the community since 2014. I'm also a lawyer who works at a consumer rights nonprofit. And I'm going to provide just a little bit of information about EVC's decision-making process. So EVC is legally and financially a condominium. And just like any other condo building, we have bylaws and a board of directors. The board deals with issues, various legal issues, financial issues, and building system issues. Most of the decision-making in the community, though, is not done by the board. Instead, most decisions are made by the community as a whole through a very thoughtful consensus decision-making process by what we call our membership circle. The membership circle is all of the members of EVC, and it generally meets once a month in meetings facilitated by an experienced facilitator. That's usually a member of the community. We have a lot of people here with a lot of experience in facilitating group discussions, although every once in a while we'll also bring in outside facilitators. At these membership circles, we discuss and go through a process of trying to get to a position that everyone is okay with. So when we're reaching a decision, we're not just voting on the decision and having the majority win. Instead, we're trying to address everyone's concerns and end up in a place where everyone is satisfied and okay moving forward. So this might sound sort of unusual and hard, and it can take more time than just having people vote. But it encourages rich discussion, it allows all perspectives to be heard, and it achieves a higher level of support and buy-in across the community. Because we're taking the time to discuss and hear perspectives and to tap members' experience and wisdom, we can adapt proposals to address concerns, and we end up with better decisions than if we hadn't taken the time to try to figure out a policy that works for everyone. I encourage you, if you're interested in EVC or in cohousing generally, to come to one of our membership circles and see how the process works. It really is a thoughtful and respectful process designed to ensure that every voice is heard and that we end up with the best decision possible. And we've established a wide range of community policies that have been agreed to by consensus. Now, I should say that not every decision made in the community has to go to the membership circle and be consensus upon by everyone. If someone wants to host a dance party on the Saturday night, they don't need to bring it to everyone to talk about and reach consensus on. There's many ideas, initiatives, and other things that happen in the community that aren't about community policy, and so don't go through that process. Instead, a person or group of people plans something and invites everyone to join in. But the consensus process is the one that we use for community policy decisions. And I think it's really a special part of cohousing and a special part of living in EVC. So that's our decision-making in a nutshell. And I'm now going to turn things over to Andrew to talk about our finances.
My name is Andrew Levine. I moved into the community 7 years ago. So that makes me class of 2014, along with Adina. And in that time, I have served as treasurer 4 times. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the basic facts of EVC, the financial status. As Adina mentioned, in the eyes of the state of Maryland, we are a condominium community, and we have to adhere to all laws that apply. But being a co-housing community, we have the ability to make decisions on our own and how we actually fulfill the requirements of the state of Maryland. And one of those responsibilities is a set of documents, and those are our co-housing documents, and those we adhere to. But we also have a board, as was mentioned, but we are very conscious on what we have our board do on its own. And in the basic sense, our board is responsible for the fiscal integrity of the community. Now that includes adhering to legal issues, dealing with financial institutions, that's our savings account and our checking account, dealing with our management company, and also repairs to the building. These are issues that do not go through the consensus process, because you don't necessarily need to take time to make sure a light gets fixed from the whole community. But some financial issues are managed in consensus. We do come to consensus on things like our budget. Our budget process is actually derived from the community. Community members come together, get a draft proposal for a budget from our management company. We work through questions. We work through changes to the budget, and we, as a community, as part of a team, our finance team will submit our budget to our community for inspection, questions, clarifications. But in this process, it is also brought to the community for consensus to establish our budget. If an increase in the fees are required, the community needs to come together and agree on the increase. We as a community have had a series of increases, but we've always consensus on them in the community. It is possible for a board to raise HOA fees, our fees, but that hasn't happened, and we have been good stewards of our money such that we don't have to go through that has not had to happen. We are also proud to say that we have a pretty healthy reserve fund or savings account for larger items. And we as a community have stayed on the schedule of getting our reserve studies done as required by the state of Maryland. No special assessment has happened either, which means we've never had to ask the community for extra funds, because we have been able to, so far, manage our funds such that we do take care of our spending. And our yearly spending, we do hire contractors for such things as the HVAC, our geothermal HVAC system, our major landscaping issues, cleaning in our common spaces. But we do have a number of things throughout the community that are taken care of by community members. We have an idea of a steward system where, let's say our exercise room is managed by a single individual or a set of individuals, and they respond to the community when things there's a problem or there's a request, and the community can take that into account. But stewards are going to be talked about later by others. That's about it. I pass it off now to Deborah Few.
Thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Deborah Few, and I've been a member of EVC for 16 years. I am originally from Chicago, and living here probably has reminded me of home and community more than any place I've ever lived. I'm a federal employee, and I work in aviation operations. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the physical features of the building as far as our common spaces. I think Stephen talked about that a little bit earlier. Like all co-housing communities, we have many common spaces. We'll show you a few, but as mentioned, as many as we can during the time allotted. Our building is accessible for people with different abilities and requirements. Wi-Fi accessibility is available in most of the common spaces, including outside. We have a green roof, and we have a range of outdoor spaces, including our courtyard. We have a common living room. I'll start with the first floor, where we have lots of meetings, dancing, shared meals, yoga, parties, house concerts, etc. We have a common living room adjacent to that, where we watch movies, we host presentations on all type of different topics, and we have informal meetings there, or we just hang out. Adjacent to that, or the dining room, I should say, there's a large kitchen. There's a kids' playroom. We have a game room, and in the game room, we even have the original Space Invaders game. And we also have a multi-purpose room. And in the multi-purpose room, there's lots of books for reading. You can do meetings in there, or if you play an instrument, it's a great place to rehearse. We also have a workshop with every tool and power tool that you can imagine. We have a fitness room with lots of exercise equipment. And we have a lot of common spaces on the other floors. We also have 3 guest rooms, which is an extension of your home, and we can reserve. And each guest room has its own bathroom. We also have a giveaway closet and a share closet. And if you're wondering what's in the share closet, we have things like camping equipment, coolers, things of that nature that you might want to share, but not necessarily keep in your unit. We also have a couple of libraries. We have a computer nook where we can use a computer and print there. We also have a meditation room, and we also have several spaces to store bicycles. I am one of the bike parking stewards. We do have limited spaces there, but we have a system where we try to accommodate as many cyclists as possible. We also have several common outdoor spaces which were invaluable during COVID. In the courtyard, we have barbecues, the kids can play, or we have tables and chairs where people just sit around and relax. And during COVID, we were able to sit outside with our fire pit. We also have a rooftop, and there's a playground up there, tables and chairs for parties, lots of impromptu happy hours. It's a great view of watching the sunset over Rock Creek Park. And there's also a gazebo where people host parties, chatting, or house concerts. If you have any questions, please hold them for the Q&A segment at the end of the tour, or put them in the chat, and we'll try to answer them during the rest of the meeting and during the Q&A segment. And now Kara's going to talk about our green building features.
Thanks, Deb. Hello, everyone. I'm Kara Strong. I actually live between Deb and Andrew here at EVC, and I've been living here since 2004. I'm an architect focusing on green building. In fact, I was the green building consultant here at EVC. So I know all of the green building features. So if you have any questions about anything I don't get a chance to cover right now, please add it to the chat. So when I talk about green building at EVC, I always like to start with the courtyard. When this building was originally constructed back in the 1950s, the courtyard was actually a parking lot. And so the first step we did is we took out the parking from the building. If you want to park, you park next door in a county garage. And then once we removed the parking lot, we then drilled about 45 geothermal or ground source heating and cooling wells that go down about 500-600 feet. And that's how we work to heat and cool our building. And that allows us not only to have heating utility bills that are half of what you'd normally expect to see, we also don't have condensers up on our roof, and that gives us a lot more social space for our building. And then so we get all of those great advantages, we then, after the well fields are in, we built our fabulous courtyard, which is full of native plants. We used very cool paving to keep our courtyard much more comfortable here in the summer. and have a great, again, more wonderful gathering spaces for our building. So that's just one example of how EVC is green. If you want lots more examples, and I can give them, I can talk about our LED lighting retrofit we just did. Please, again, add that to the chat. But for now, I'd like to turn this over to Adrienne, and she'll talk about our common meals.
Thank you, Kara. My name is Adrienne. I've been living at Eastern Village since 2004. I'm one of the original members. And when I first moved in, I was single. I had a 1-bedroom unit. I got married. I had a child. Now I'm in a 2-bedroom unit. And I'm also an elementary school art teacher in Montgomery County. So like all EVC communities, or like all co-housing communities, I should say, EVC has lots of times that we come together around meals. So pre-COVID and shortly after we moved in, we started a weekly Monday potluck, which lasted for years up until COVID. And then at some point, some of us who are parents who needed an earlier start time started a Tuesday weekly potluck. So we had both of those for years. We also have shared meal groups where groups of people come together and take turns cooking for each other. One of these was a vegan meal group, which then turned into a monthly potluck, a monthly vegan potluck. We also come together around holidays. We have Memorial Day potluck and Labor Day potluck, and we also have Thanksgiving Day feasts as well as Christmas Day feasts as well. Those are a bit more organized. We have lots of impromptu events that are around meals, for instance, happy hours, as have been mentioned, and life cycle events and milestones like birthday parties and things like that. And these might happen inside in our common house, they may take place on the roof, or they might be in the courtyard. Since COVID started, of course, how we come together around food has changed, but we have managed some ways to do that. Somebody set up a Zoom courtyard for us, and people can drop by impromptu and have meals together or have tea times and discussions. Shortly before winter, a fire pit was purchased, which enabled some people to come together on cold nights and sometimes share a meal. We have had a few people who social distance on the roof or in the courtyard as well. And more recently, we had our first official outdoor potluck for Memorial Day, and we're looking forward to have many more of those now that the weather's warm outside for now. Thank you.
Okay, this is Deborah again, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about work life at EVC. Like all co-housing communities, we have work participation expectations. As mentioned during COVID, it's been a little different in that we've had to incorporate social distancing and close down some of the common areas. Much of the work the community is done by community members. We do hire contractors to clean, maintain the HVAC, major landscaping, and any type of repairs. But instead of hiring contractors to do every job, we have teams, individuals, contributors, stewards, or different common area rooms. I'm a steward for bike parking and for the living room. We have expectations that every community member will make a contribution to support the community in any way they can. Some members choose to support based on their personality or their area expertise. Some people choose to stretch themselves, but it's a great way, you know, to learn about something different or learn a new skill working with others. Members choose contributions that suit themselves, but like for me, I kind of stick with what I know. So I like to do the bike parking. We have somebody that coordinates landscaping. You may be a facilitator for meetings. Somebody is a steward of the roof or the playground. You may help with the community's computer. We have a lot of people that need assistance with our computers, and we have excellent computer techs here at EVC. Most pitch in during our EVC work days to help with things like planting, weeding, or fixing minor problems in our common spaces. So now I'm going to turn it over for social life and fun.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jason. I've been living at EVC for 16 and a half years, which is when we opened. I remember that amount of time because one of my children was 3 weeks old when we moved in. Let's see. So I'm a rabbi, and I work for a national nonprofit organization that does social justice and civil rights work. So I'm going to provide, I also have 4 children who've all grown up here at Eastern Village, ages 11 to 21. I'm going to provide some basic facts about the different kinds of neighborly fun we have. Obviously there's a lot more to say about activities in the before times, before COVID. During COVID, as Adrian mentioned, we got a fire pit. We're able to do some hangout time in the courtyard, a few balcony sing-alongs, et cetera. But in regular times, we have just a ton of things. Some of them are planned and scheduled, and some of them are more spontaneous. It's easy to, I think one of the key ways that, one of the key benefits of being here is that because everyone is right here on site, it doesn't take an inordinate amount of planning to be able to do something together with a good number of people. So things like, some things are more planful, like house concerts. There've been poetry nights, dance nights, craft nights, movie nights, sporting event viewing. There are yoga classes that have been organized in the Common House. We also will do, many of us will drink wine and beer or tea on the roof, watching sunsets, bike, lots of biking. As people mentioned, we're right near Rock Creek Park, so good hikes. Sometime dinner gatherings. Halloween would be a time when, all the kids get together and kind of go as a big scary crew around the neighborhood. Another piece is just a number of things are just spontaneous. So, let's say on a Saturday evening, I may look down from my window and look in the courtyard and see that there's a number of people having some beer downstairs. So I'll go and join them. It's a real easy place to interact and to connect with other people because everyone's here on site.
My name is Glenn, and I'm a retired physicist and engineer and teacher early in my career. And I've lived in this area for several decades. Single dad, raised my 2 children here, not in Eastern Village. I raised them before I joined. But when they were getting ready to graduate and go to college and fly the coop, I started thinking about where I wanted to be, not necessarily in a house in the suburbs. So I brainstormed what kind of community I would like to see. I'd never heard of cohousing. And so I came up with a model for myself that I thought would work very well. And then a day or 2 later, I just happened to walk into the office of my colleague, Stephen Sylvan, who talked to you a little earlier, who helped co-found this community. And he said, "Glenn, have you ever heard of cohousing?" And I said, "No, what's that?" So he showed it to me and said, "As a matter of fact, we're having a meeting tonight, an organizational meeting." So I came, and as soon as I met the people who were involved, I said, "This is where I want to be." A lot of interesting people and lots of opportunities for social situations for us. So I went ahead and committed to that. And I'm one of the originals. I moved in 17 years ago. And by the way, my 2 kids are now grown, married, and have kids of their own. So I'm a grandparent 4 times over. So when we moved in, as some people may have mentioned, we had 56 units, about 110 people, and about we've had 50 kids born here since we moved in. About 26 of us were retired or nearing retirement. So a couple of us got together and started brainstorming a little bit and thought, gee, these are people we have something in common with. So we organized a group of us, people who were retired or getting ready to retire. And so we started having breakfast together the first Friday of every month. First, we met in individuals' homes and actually had a full breakfast. And we went out to some restaurants a few times. Over the years, it evolved into kind of a coffee brunch get together in our common house or up on our roof. When COVID hit, and this has been going on for many years, when COVID hit, of course, we had to rely on Zoom. And just this last Friday, we had our very first physical meeting. We still kind of socially distanced, and some of us wore masks if we were near each other. And we met on our green roof, which is what we do in the really nice weather. So we also meet in each other's homes for get-togethers and teas, and several of us go to art galleries together sometimes. Actually, a few of us have taken trips together. So some of my best friends in the world are members of the SAGES and the wider community. So anyway, we kind of act like the grandparents of the community, you might say. We're aunts and uncles. We're always available to babysit or help out if one of our younger members needs it. And I think that there's a lot of advantages to especially some of us older people being in a community where we have many friends we can interact with quite a bit, call upon, plan events together. And some people, I think I told you, the name of our group are the SAGES. Well, when we first started, we called ourselves the Antediluvians before the flood. We were old enough to have been around before the flood. And then one of the members suggested SAGES, and that's an acronym for Sagacious and Grand EVCers. So we adopted that name. That's what we've been ever since. We have a grand old time. There's altogether, there's been about 34 SAGES. Some have moved away. There's 24 of us in the community at the present time. And so we do get together, and quite a few of us interact and do things together. So if you have any questions later on, be sure to ask me and I'll try to answer them.
So hi, everybody. I am Naomi Friedman. I'm also one of the original members who was involved in the design of the building and community before we moved in, and has lived here ever since. I have a 12-year-old daughter who you will hear from shortly, and I am a single parent. And I think co-housing is just a phenomenal place, really, for anyone. And certainly as a single parent, I thank my lucky stars over and over again. Really don't know how I would have done it without living here in co-housing.
I'll just introduce myself really quickly. So my name's Abby Dakin. I've been here at EVC from the beginning. We joined about 6 months before move-in. And this is my daughter, Cersei.
I'm Cersei, and I've been here my entire life. So, yeah.
Cersei, how old are you now?
I am now 14. So, yeah, it's, I don't know, EVC has been here just for so long. It's like, I don't know, another family.
So do you want to ask a question, Naomi? Shall we pass it back and forth?
Sure. And I will just say for many of these kids, they haven't really known anything else besides Eastern Village, except maybe a very early experience prior. So they have nothing to compare it against. So for them, it's just normal life. But I'm going to ask, what do you like about living here in Eastern Village?
I like how we have group meals and how it's like a second family.
I can answer that question as well. I think probably the courtyard with the toy chest down there, and there's open space for all of us to interact, and not just within the kids, but also with adults as well. Especially as I'm getting older, it's not as much with the toys in the courtyard, but it's also about just the conversations I have with neighbors.
So have you noticed that ways in which your experience in co-housing has made you different from friends that you've met, say, through school or through other places?
100%. I know that a lot of people have neighbors in the like next to them and stuff like that. but I mean, I call all of you guys neighbors, but it's like you guys are kind of part of my family where I know everyone's name. I know just like, I don't know. I know pretty much everyone in the building, and I know sort of something about their personality. And I had a friend over at one point and she was like, you know everyone's name? And it was like, yeah, I do know everyone's name. And it's like, people don't expect that when they like first come over here.
Well, I remember when was small and I was a very tired new mother. She probably was, I don't know, maybe two and a half or so. She would go upstairs to our neighbors 2 floors up on weekend mornings, like Saturday morning, and became almost part of their family for an hour or so in the morning. I remember many a time where they actually were gracious enough to serve her breakfast. And it was so nice for me because it was very rare that I would get an hour to go back to sleep. And I think those bonds that these kids formed in from the earliest age is really amazing. I always say these kids they're really not just friends, and they're more like cousins. There is a certain kind of way of being with each other where they just kind of assume they're gonna hang out together. They don't all need to be best friends, but different ages hang out together, different genders hang out together. There's a chance for pickup games of whatever it is. And it's more like when you get together with your cousins, you don't think about whether, they're a little older, a little younger, or anything like that. You just feel close to them and know that you're gonna, have a good time playing with them. So I think these kids are almost more like cousins. Do you want to say anything, honey?
Yeah, I agree with you. We're more like, at the beginning we were more friends, but then the older you get, the more you start hanging out with them more, and they become more family.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you have anything you want to share about the times that the kids have helped make decisions about how to do things, like maybe the toy chest in the courtyard or something like that.
Yeah. So I like also about EVC that some places like kids don't get a say in it, but in many things kids get a say. And we have a toy chest in our courtyard for the toys to go back to, and they can be taken out and played with. And the kids worked with the adults and made a plan, and then it was built. And yeah.
Cersei, do you remember why we needed the toy chest?
We have multiple neighbors with different types of things that they need the courtyard to be a little bit more clear. And we didn't have a designated spot for toys to go back to. We obviously had toys in the courtyard already, but there definitely wasn't enough room and there wasn't a special place where it goes. And so they didn't get cleaned up as much as we would like them to. But now that we have the toy chest, it's like easy for us to know where everything goes back to when we're done playing with them. And also I want to talk about how we have, I think we have like a person that's sort of representing the kids in different meetings and things. Not exactly positive about that, but that's what I seem to recall. And I don't know, I've sat into a couple of meetings with the congregation. So that's, I don't know. Yeah. Also, this is not a question, but I want to talk a little bit about this. I know after when we used to have like community meals or potlucks and stuff like that, after we were done eating, all the kids would go back to the kids' room or the toy room or the multi-purpose room, and we'd all play like foosball or board games or like, I don't know, like just a whole bunch of stuff. And that's some of my favorite memories is, I don't know, you grow up and you see our play evolving as we grow.
One thing I was thinking about is all the creativity, the skits, the performances that you guys put on. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
That's one of my very favorite memories would be during the anniversaries and having talent shows and stuff like that. So there's skits that the kids don't necessarily form, but we're part of. And then there's also our own talent. So we'll play musical instruments, or the kids will form a little skit. And so those are some of my very favorite memories. I'm just talking about other memories.
Yeah, I just love that everyone can perform. They can sign up for the anniversary.
I'm just wondering what it's been like for you here during COVID times.
It's definitely been a really big change because it used to be that we were running around the building, we were in the courtyard, and now we can't really do that as much. I mean, we could, but it's not as fun with masks on and stuff like that. But I think it's still that sense of community, like the same way as now. Like I like the way Naomi phrased it with they're kind of like our cousins. Like even now we can't visit our cousins either. So this is kind of like the same thing that's going on with other families, just the family is a little bit bigger. And we also still have some of those things that we've always had, like the listserv and asking for a cup of sugar and other stuff like that, where you don't really lose that.
Sometimes that now includes, or over the winter included s'mores in the courtyard.
And going sledding at Shepherd Park, which is right down the street. So we'll take a couple sleds that we can find in the share closet, and a whole bunch of kids will go down. And I'm usually the oldest one there, so I am able to have a phone on me. So now that we're getting older, we're able to do that more and more independently.
Anything you want to add?
Feeling so grateful. Was someone trying to ask something? I was just going to say, I remember feeling so grateful last summer when all the camp programs were canceled and we were basically like, what are we going to do? And a few of us were able to actually hire someone, a teen in our building, to do some sophisticated childcare activities with some of the kids here and there, things like tie dyeing and mosaics. And it was so well received. And I guess another example of how EVC has seen us through crisis after crisis, the pandemic being no different. And you know, how much we lean on each other, very much so. And I would say in raising children, I really feel like many of the adults here and even teenagers serve as role models and help parent my child through their example and their kindness and their intelligence.
I also wanted to say something about this. Talking about babysitting, now I'm 14, so I'm getting right around that age where now would be the time where I'd be doing a lot more babysitting. And when I was 12, there were a couple new babies in the building, and seeing them going into kindergarten this year is so crazy to me. Just to think that they're in elementary school now. And my mom always talks about how seeing us grow up was so fast, and I never really thought about it. But now that I've seen these babies in the building grow up, it's so crazy. Remembering that they were this long. It feels like it was 5 minutes ago, and then now they're in kindergarten and they're walking and talking. And it's really, really crazy.
I want to just say one other thing to close, which is Naomi said how important community is for her raising a child as a single parent. Well, I'm not a single parent, still critical to have a community around me. And I'll second what Naomi said, that having extra adults around really makes it easier to parent?
I've heard a couple of things about this, but when new babies are born, might have a list of meals and people bringing meals to parents that are still that need extra help or need something for them. There's always someone there to give them some extra help.
Thanks all. That was great. We're going to move on now.
Thank you so much. Yep. We'll go now to Jean and Mary, who have joined us. And Jean and Mary, I just want to alert you, one of the questions that's been posed in the chat that we have not yet addressed is about what are the formal and informal ways we support each other. So as you speak about mutual support, if you could just highlight also formal and informal. Thanks.
Sure, absolutely. So by way of introduction, I'm Jean, and this is my wife, Mary.
I'm Mary.
And we've been members of the community for almost 10 years. And I am a grant writer.
I'm a retired teacher.
And like all co-housing communities, we have various types of mutual support. And often these are done through our email listserv. In pre-pandemic times, it would also often happen somewhat more informally, as Susan was just saying, when neighbors bump into one another. So I'll give you a number of examples. It's simply amazing how many times you would see people posting messages on the listserv for things like needing a cup of sugar or a special tool or a costume for a kid. Or if someone's laid up due to having surgery or an illness, who can walk their dog?
And it's amazing, sometimes within literally minutes, the request has been made and it's like, boy, that was a quick one.
And sometimes people need help with things like jumping a car in the parking lot, or getting rides to doctor visits, or if your car's in the shop, getting a loaner car from a neighbor. We help each other with kids, and there are a lot of informal babysitting arrangements. There are meals for new parents or for people who are experiencing illnesses or surgeries.
About a year and a half ago, I came home from a long hospital stay, and Jean had to go back to work. And a neighbor who's a social worker arranged to have some of the neighbors just pop in periodically throughout the day to make sure I was okay. And it was such a relief to know that I was in good hands when Jean wasn't here.
And we also, in recent times, we've had COVID updates and support for those who want it.
And we definitely have tried to balance keeping in touch with each other while respecting everyone's right to privacy and, of course, safety during the pandemic.
And we have monthly diversity and inclusion study and action circles. There's an EVC SAGES discussion group for seniors that you'll probably be hearing more about. And then members also often host remembrances or celebrations for life transitions, birthdays, milestones, or anniversaries.
I actually put out a monthly list of birthday celebrants for that month, so we all know who's celebrating.
So, and there are 1,000 other ways. And like I said, a lot of times these are handled through our listserv, sometimes more informally, but that's pretty much the listserv is our main means of communicating, as well as the membership circle and announcements there. And COVID and political unrest have only increased our desire and commitment to look out for each other. I think of the mutual support in co-housing a lot like an extended family. Families can be wonderful and supportive, but being so close, they can also rub you the wrong way at times. And they also require time, energy, and commitment from all of the members in order to be mutually supportive.
And co-housing, and EVC in particular, is not utopia, but there is significant mutual support that you wouldn't find in a regular condo building. This is the best place Jean and I have ever lived. We love it here.
Thank you. That's it for
ours.
us.
And now
Thank
on
you
to
so
Jeanette.
much. Well, so now we're going to turn to this questions section. And I see that we've got some posted already in the chat. The question about how frequently do units go on the market? Let's see. Deb, do you want to take that one?
That's kind of a difficult question to ask. Sometimes it can be quite a stretch before someone moves out, maybe every couple of years. Probably maybe every 2 years or so. Would anybody agree with that? That's about the frequency, I think.
Yeah, this is Jay. I'll just jump in and say it actually sometimes comes in spurts. I mean, our average may be 2 years, but sometimes we'll have 3 in 1 year and then none for a couple years. It's really it really, depends upon the environment and what's going on in the world and just who's changing jobs, all kinds of things. So it really does vary.
Events.
But yep. But we'll give it again later, but you can go to our website and you can sign up there for a mailing list.
Thanks. So Rustam has written about getting to know Eastern Village Cohousing before actually buying a place here or further exploring possibly buying here and how to do that. So I'll say one way is to join one of our community meetings, our membership circle, and to observe that and kind of get to know the things we're dealing with at different membership circles. 1 month, we might be talking about the budget. The next month, we might be talking about the guest rooms and how we're managing them. The next month, how we're coming out of COVID and, eating in the courtyard together. Anyone else want to say something about how to get to know EVC?
Yeah, I can. So we saw an ad, there was a unit for sale. So my husband and I just saw an ad and went to answer that. And there was an open house. So that was wonderful too. And now, of course, there are more virtual open houses. You can visit co-housing communities across the land and in any country. So that's very exciting. We visited this one. It was local. We wanted to live nearby. And the meeting turned into a, wine on the roof and chatting. And so we really got to know each other. The meetings are often, everything seems to have a very large social aspect. And people are very comfortable speaking very directly and clearly and honestly. And we found that embracing and bracing.
And I see there's also a question about, I'm going to use the word in quotations, selecting new members. One of the things we try to do is be really clear about what cohousing is so that people who are interested in cohousing will want to live here, and people who don't want to live in cohousing will realize this is not the place for them. So we want to, part of what you're seeing today is us trying to be clear about what our community is, so that people will choose whether they want to live here or not. And then this is a condominium. People are legally allowed to sell to whomever they want to sell to. And so you'll, places can go on the market, and then the owner will decide who they sell to based on the offers that they get. I saw Andrew's hand up.
I was going to make the point you just made. It's very important people realize unit owners are the ones who actually sell the units. The community cannot tell a unit owner who to sell to or who not to sell to.
So we're getting questions about how to join a meeting, how to make an appointment to visit the building. And we have an email address. If you could put that in the chat again, anyone who may have joined late, it's EVC Tours, that email. That is an email address where you can email to express your interest in seeing the building in person. We still have our COVID precautions, so that we'll have to work that out. Joining one of our Zoom community meetings, emailing to EVC Tours would be the way to explore that.
And if I can add, Susan?
Please.
Yes, as we all have kind of mentioned here and there, we are all volunteers here and we are quite busy. So it wouldn't be a matter of, oh, let's have a tour each day, or let's just go stop by and see who's going to show us around. Sometimes that happens, but that's part of what we're creating here, is making sure that we can be here for you even when we're doing our work or we're at work or at school. This recording can always be there also to help.
Susan, there was a question while you were talking that I don't think we addressed, that are the units at EVC generally sold at market rate? And has the rapid increase in housing prices in the region significantly limited the affordability of EVC, especially for lower income people?
You want to take that, Nancy?
No, I don't.
Okay. Andrew does. Go ahead, Andrew.
The issue is that we actually haven't had a lot of units sell lately. We've had a few. They've gone pretty much around market rate, maybe a little bit over, but not by a huge amount. Once again, we don't have that many to have as reference, because our units don't turn over that often.
Can we go to Circe and Abby?
Yeah, hi. I wanted to answer about market rate units. We have 2 moderately priced dwelling units. The county has a policy of new developments must designate a certain percentage of their units to sell below market rate. And I believe it's 2 units. It might be 3 or 4, but we do have some of those units. Turnover has been even slower in those units than the rest. Well, I'm not sure that's true. We have a few of those units. I don't know of anyone who has any plans to go anywhere else.
So we may be coming to the end of the question time here, in which case I want to then turn us to what happens when a unit does go for sale. And Daisy, we're over to you for that.
Great, thanks, Susan. Yes, so as Susan said, there are people often wanting to get in here. There's not a waiting list of the people who are going to get in first come, first serve, because they were waiting for a few years. It's re-advertised anew as a unit up for sale in the public. Because we're legally condos, each owner sells their unit as they wish, with a realtor, for sale by owner, etc. It's really up to them and the fair housing laws. And because we're an intentional community, we offer a wealth of information and support if the owner chooses to make use of that. So we in the outreach group we have a lot of information that we can share with any owner who wants to sell their unit to help them prepare and things like that. And the first place we go to is Zillow and very public sites and very diverse sites. So everyone has access to knowing about it. And this is also posted on our website. And this is also all volunteer. So when we do have time, we'll coordinate an open house for EVC and usually advertise that in Meetup. And that hopefully will coincide with any sales. And we'll make ourselves available for anybody who wants to know about what cohousing is. And as we mentioned earlier, in the cohousing's historical trending and diversity portion of this tour, we understand that many people are looking for cohousing or know cohousing by another name. People may not know cohousing exists in this area or even in the United States. But when they hear it described, they say, oh, that's my pueblo, that's what we did back home, or that's what we did growing up. So this is where this virtual tour and our website and the national cohousing community and other communities come in handy. And anyone can check any of these communities and learn more about what it is to do cohousing and what it's like in that particular place. So if you're interested in more information, of course, sign up here, go to the website, check regularly on Redfin and Zillow. That's how my husband and I found out about it. And we've been in communities for years, but not in cohousing. And we didn't know this existed up the street from us. And so you might see an ad for the building. If it's number 101 to 419 for our building address, that is a cohousing. There is a C unit that sells sometimes units there. They are not co-housing, but they're our neighbors, and they often engage with our community as well. So hope that covers it for when a unit comes up for sale. I'll pass it back on to you guys.
Thanks. Are we ready for Deb and Andrew? Deb, over to you.
Hi guys, I'm back again. We're going to show you a little bit of our outdoor spaces, our courtyard, balcony gardens, and maybe we can pan up to the garden roof deck. These features have been wonderful during COVID and really give you a chance to get out and get some air. So for those of you who get a little bit of motion sickness from a moving camera, Andrew's going to be walking around a bit, so we'll just let you know when he's done with that. So Andrew, take it away.
I'm going to move from inside my unit slowly. So hold on. If I drop away, so here's the street. It's our courtyard. Okay, that's my unit right there.
Okay, so I think we're done with the moving camera for a while. And this is one of the flat units. So we have lofts and flats. And the lofts, the flats, they have 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. So as you can see, the flats pretty much have an open concept. This is another picture of a flat. So the living room and kitchen area is pretty much open. This is a picture from inside of the unit, so you can see the balconies across and our big tree in the middle of the courtyard. Now this is inside a first floor of a loft. And you can see the circular stairways, and this is the view from inside the loft to the outside. And this is a loft from the upstairs, so that area with the gate around it, you can look over that, that would be down into the first floor, and you can use that as your living space, dining space, or whatever. But this is the upstairs of one of the lofts. And the lofts also have entrances on their first level and on the second level. So they have 2 doors in the loft units, where the flats only have 1. This is a picture of a unit just after move-in, being freshly painted. It's pretty much a minimalist view. And then there's our spiral staircase. This is the first floor. And this is the same unit, and this is upstairs before move-in. And that really gives you a pretty good picture. So as you can see, they all look pretty different. I have to honestly say there's no 2 units that are exactly the same. And again, we have 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. And some of the units have 1, 2, and even 3 bathrooms. And Andrew is panning again, just to give you guys warning if you get motion sickness. Go ahead, Andrew, tell them about where you are.
I am on one of the balconies right now. So this is the second floor, and you see the planter boxes that are in front of everyone's place, and then you see the green canopy that grows in the summertime, and you can see up to the 3rd and 4th floor. They have their own planter boxes, and you know, it's very green.
And this is the front of the building over here. That's the top of the archway. If you could make it out when I was panning around before. And going back, a whole bunch of trees. And then the balconies have a little space for some chairs, a little outside storage if you need it. And that's pretty much what we got. I'm gonna move a little down here. I don't know, I might drop away, so I apologize if you lose me. Oh, there's Jason. Yeah, this is the KB's place right there. The red door here. And then looking down onto our courtyard area where a lot of the meeting and greeting happens.
We'll now switch over to Daisy. Daisy, you're on for our closing announcements and feedback and everything else.
Oh, great. We normally would say, well, we might have a unit for sale, but we don't have anything for sale currently. And again, if you want to check, always check with Trello and check back at our website. And normally also if we weren't on a virtual tour, we would be having a meeting, we'd be having a meal. So let's pretend we all had a really great meal with vegan and vegetarian and omnivore foods, and there was a chef here cooking as well, so there are a lot of different cooks here and we enjoyed that. Wasn't that wonderful? And also there are some questions about the different units. No two units are identical, so they're all very different, but some have similarities. So if you have a question that wasn't answered on the tour, just feel free to send an email, and we'll do our best to answer them. And also we'll be answering other questions that come up by adding to our website regularly as much as we can in the future. Now, there's also a Mid-Atlantic Co-Housing is having a no-bus bus tour. They had a tour today. Check with CohoUS. The national co-housing groups. They have a lot of events that are going on around the nation. And MAC, Mid-Atlantic Co-Housing, is having a no-bus bus tour. Often they would get on a bus and they would go visit a few different co-housing communities. And that's always been wonderful. It's always sold out. This is going to be a virtual tour. It's going to be free, and they'll have different communities filling in different pieces of the puzzle. And some of them are formed, some of them are forming, and some of them are adding on to what they've built. Now, also, if you're interested in creating your own community, go for it. Just keep asking around and talking to people you want to create communities with. And going to these kinds of events is going to help you clarify those wishes and manifest those wishes and dreams. I'd also like to ask people to, if you would, just write in the chat a word or a phrase of what you're taking away with you today, what has changed and shifted since you came online, and if there's anything new you want to even give to the rest of the community here, because you right now are a community on this Zoom call, and you're a community of people who are interested. I also want to just thank everybody for coming. Some of you are journalists, some of you are wanting to join communities, some of you are going to be creating your own, some of you are city planners or architects, and you're looking to make a difference. The more we teach each other and learn from each other about what it is and apply the traditional forms of co-housing, blend them into what modern co-housing is, it's going to make a huge difference, and it makes it more accessible to everyone. So I want to thank you all for your interest in being a community here today with us.
Thanks everyone for coming. We really appreciate it.
Is there a way also that we can unmute everybody so you can say goodbye as they're getting off?
Everybody can certainly unmute
If you can unmute yourself and
anybody
say goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.
It was great.
Very good.